Hey all, here is my layout for this tutorial of creating a border around your page. I had a note, I was going through my notes trying to decide on what tutorial to do next, and I actually had a note to do this tutorial, and I thought to myself, I don't think I've ever done it. And when I was first learning to digital scrapbook, I remember trying to do this, and it seemed so difficult, but it's actually really easy. And here we go. We're in Photoshop Elements 13, works in all versions. We're going to show at the end of this, doing the same thing in the full version of Photoshop. So I'm going to go down and turn off my layers so we can recreate it. And you're going to go to the shape tool. Now you can use any shape you want. You can use the rectangular tool, of course. I mean, you can use the circle tool if you want. But I am using the rounded rectangular, and I've got my radius at about 88 pixels, or you can do more or less. The radius determines how rounded your corners are. And I'm going to simply click down and draw this out. Now what's great about using the shape tool is that if I want to go back later and change the size of this box, I can always do so. Okay, so we have our shape. And now I've clicked on the Move tool because I needed that to resize it. The next step is to get that centered on the page. I think that's the part that baffles a lot of new digital scrapbookers. How am I going to get that centered on the page? I could manually move it around and eye it, but there's actually a really easy way to do that. I've got my background paper already in here, and so I'm going to hold my Control key down and I'm going to click so that both the shape layer and the background paper are active. And then with the Move tool active, I'm going to just click down here on Align Center and Align Middle. And it centers it for me. I remember I was playing with this. I don't use Photoshop Elements very much, and I was trying to click right here on the word, and nothing was working. It was driving me batty. But you have to click on the icons. Okay, I'm going to click over here to make only one of them active again. You can see it made it green simply because my foreground color was green. It doesn't matter what color you make that shape, because our next step is to click on the Effects palette and choose, I'm in the layer styles, and then choose in the drop down box visibility, and I am going to click this middle one. You can't even see it. There's an icon here, but you can't see it because it's invisible, because we want invisible. So it's also called hide. So I'm going to hide it, double click on it, and you can see it makes that whole box transparent. We're seeing the bounding box right now. Now if I would click off, see, I can't see it at all. Let me go back to my layers palette and select that. But now we need to make the actual line. So I'm going to go back to my layer styles. I'm going to choose strokes, and I just started with this small black stroke. You can choose whatever one you want. So I just double clicked and it's on there. You can't see very well. I like being zoomed out so I can see what it's going to look like for the whole page. I'm going to go back to my layers palette, double click on this FX in the layer, and I'm going to make my stroke larger. Now a size 2, I've used that a lot. It just gives this real nice subtle, here we can look at it, a subtle little line. I 2, 3, 4 actually is very artistic. I really like that. But for this tutorial, I decided that I was going to make mine much larger. and I actually changed the back. I changed the color of it. I just double clicked on this little box to bring up the color picker, and I was going after the brown that's kind of in my layout kind of here, and I clicked OK. So that is all I did to add mine. Now I did take mine a step further. I don't know if you noticed it when we first looked at it, but I gave it a stamped look. And here's how you do that. Now you can do it right here on your original, but I chose to save my original. So I would drag this layer up to the new layer icon to duplicate it, or you can right click and duplicate, or you can hit Control J on your keyboard. All three of those methods duplicate. And I'm going to make this first layer invisible. So I've only got this one that I'm playing with. In case I want to just delete this whole thing and go back to the original, I've got that original there. And then next, I'm going to go up and hit the Add Layer Mask. So now I've added a layer mask to that layer. Click on the layer mask to make sure I'm drawing on the layer mask. You can see when I added the layer mask, my foreground and background color turned to black and white for me. Get the brush tool, not the smart brush tool. Here's the brush tool. And choose a brush. Any brush works. You can do anything you want, any variety of things. I'm in this fall finish brushes. I actually tried a bunch of different brushes, but I'm gonna just pick one here. I'm gonna make the brush rather large. Again, making sure I'm drawing on my mask because black conceals and white reveals. Wherever I click down, it's going to conceal this kind of inky edge. Oh, I missed a step. Sorry. I'm going to back up here. Let's delete this layer mask. I forgot an important step to show you. We're going to right click on this and we're going to simplify the layer. And that's what that's going to do. It's going to take the layer style and commit it to that layer. Now this is where the step's going to be a little different in Photoshop, the full version, which I'm going to open that up and show you. So we're going to simplify it. I'm going to add that layer mask back. Okay, now when I click down, you can see it makes where it is concealing parts of that line. So whatever brush you use, that's what's going to make it look different. I mean, there's tons of brushes in here. Anything that looks kind of like inking, I mean, even this. I just, if you don't like it after you stamp down, hit Control Z. So you can do any brush. I think, where's the wet? I was going after the wet, but here's some dry. Sometimes these dry brushes work well. Wet media brushes. See, these are cool looking because they've got like inking in them. And sometimes these brushes work well. I've used these a lot. So I could leave it like this with it inked kind of up like that. I have a whole tutorial on inking. You should go watch that. But I could even leave it like this, but I did choose to do I think it was the linear burn on my other one, and I lowered the opacity so it kind of went into and blended with the paper underneath it. It looked a little bit more realistic. So let's head over to the full version of Photoshop, and we're going to look at it in there too. And so here's what my layout looks like in the full version of Photoshop. I'm in Photoshop CC. And we're going to look at these settings a little bit here. I am going to make that invisible. And so here is my rounded rectangular. I'm gonna put this on 88. This is the exact same method, so I just gotta learn the little differences that are in the full version of Photoshop. And there it happened to be black. Like I said, the color doesn't matter. Now what you can do is you can change this to make it invisible from in two different places. This is actually the fill, and that is right here. And so I can lower the fill and you can see it disappears. Of course, if I click on the FX and I choose blending options, that is also right here. So you can reach that fill opacity in two different places. Um, and then you can click and add your drop shadow. I'm sorry, you can add a drop shadow, your stroke, and this you see retained the last setting that I used. And I've actually added drop shadow to these lines because it also gives its own unique look. I've actually done that before too. Only I would leave the distance down and up the spread. That way it creates the border all the way around. But for this purpose, let's just do the border, the stroke in that method. And then I'm going to duplicate the layer, dragging to the new layer icon. And in this case, I've got to right click and first choose rasterize layer. And now you see it's left the layer styles on there. So I'm going to right click and rasterize layer styles also before I add my layer mask and get my brush to start doing stuff to the layer mask. Now you can leave it this. I almost decided to leave it this. I like the nice clean look. I just was thinking about something different. And so back to my final layout here, and you can see I just did the little subtle inking, I guess, but it's actually stamping. It makes it stamped. So that's my additional tips from the full version of Photoshop.